to the best family on YouTube. Well, at least in our opinion here at Carrier Burry, our EDC family. I'm your host, Prophet, and with me as always, you guys, is the Professor. And you know what? We thank you for joining us for another EDC video. And we got one for you tonight, guys, another knife video. Today, we're trying something a little bit different. We are going to do an overview here and a review of the Spyderco Slysz Bowie. However, we're going to actually have a twist to that. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. Now, there have been 3 productions of this very knife. This one in particular is actually going to be the second production model of the Slysz Bowie. So there were 3. There was the original, there was the second production here, and there was just a third production. And that third drop has just happened, and there is now a race to find and obtain one on the secondary market and secondary sites. Guys, this leads to scalping, price inflation, and honestly, for those who are unable to get one before the usual lightning fast sellout, sometimes even leading to problems while you're trying to get it on the website, right? Errors, server issues, or if you're like me, just plain bad luck. We're going to get into that a little bit later. However, we have decided to coin a term for the people or businesses that get involved in this particular type of selling. Now, we get that coining a term for anyone in this day and age is scary. And if you have been known to be called a Ken or a Karen, then maybe you can walk the plank, mateys, right? Seriously though, guys, much love for the folks who are really named Ken or Karen, by the way, because I know how it feels to have a name that's synonymous with something else. My Christian name is actually tied to something not so pleasant either. In a future video, we will absolutely address that, but only if there's interest. Anyways, the new name we've come up with for the EDC scalpers on this channel is going to be Knife Pirates. That's right, folks, Knife Pirates. We are going to have that as our coin term from here on out. And we're going to have a lot of discussions here today about Knife Pirates, right? Arr, matey. Don't be triggered by this term, Knife Pirates, okay? Or EDC Pirates. Folks, it's as close as we can get to giving a name for the folks in the secondary market industry that plunder the seas. I mean, the websites on the day of release on these limited edition and hard to find items. And then, they have to be going to the lesser known ports. I mean, secondary market sites. And there they sell their treasure. My goodness. I mean, items that they acquire to sell for a marked up price. Thus leading to a profit. Forgive me, my goodness. I tell you, I didn't know that they had those type of colds, you guys. So forgive me, something's going on with my voice here. I digress. So again, today we're discussing the Spyderco Slysz Bowie. We here at Carrier Burry have a job to do, in fact, right? We need to review and then decide if this knife should be carried or buried. Well, maybe not exactly. We will, however, do our normal overview of the Bowie, but after we're done, we will decide if EDC pirateering should be carried or buried. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, I guess. Are we going to approve, or would we like to bury these guys at sea, right? We're going to talk about that. And that's kind of the way we're going with this. As usual, if you would like to forgo the first and second segments, where we give you the specs and history in the knife and the maker and the companies involved, you may obviously skip to the time that the professor is going to put somewhere on the screen here. For those of you staying, what we're going to do is go through our normal 3 segments. And like I was saying in the beginning of the video, there have been not 1, not 2, but 3. Okay, there have been 3 different productions of this particular knife. Each time they change something and change the model by a letter or 2. the original OG, which I do not have here on the table. Like I said, this is the second iteration of this. So instead of talking about all 3 iterations of the knife and getting into crazy long numbers and things that are meaningless to you folks, most of you folks, I should say, and I know some of you want to know. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut here, and then the professor is going to fade in and out and go to a screen where you can see all 3 models and their differences. Yep, he's got you there now. So feel free to take a screenshot here. This is why I'm not barking these numbers and letters out, right? Because you're all just going to get bored if I do that. But let me just point out one thing while we're looking at this. As you can see on your screen, the first production was the C186Ti for Ti. And that was the bare titanium handles. That was the original OG Slysz Bowie. It had a beautiful semi-mirror stonewash finish on the blade, and it used CTS XHP steel. It was released in 2014, discontinued in 2017. The second production, if you notice, back in 2021, added BL to the end, which really means the blue anodized titanium handles. But more than that was changed. They also swapped out the CTS XHP steel and decided to go with something a little bit more friendly for the EDC market, and that was the Bowler M390 blade steel. If you'd like any information on the XHP or the Bowler M390 blade steel, you can go to knifesteelnerds.com. Dr. Laren Thomas has all the information you'll need on these and other steels. We'll absolutely link him in the description. Now, as you can see, the very last production that just came out has PBL, okay, on the end of that. And really, I don't know what the P stands for. What I can tell you is that they added the lock bar insert and the over travel stop to this last model, but everything else is the same. So no matter which model you're dealing with on the Spyderco Slysz Bowie, is you're going to have an overall length on this knife of 7 790 or 198 millimeters. The blade length, okay, the whole blade length is going to be just under 3.5 inches at 3 420 thousandths of an inch, or 87 millimeters. It does use that M390 steel that we talked about. They do put that proudly on the knife here, and you're going to actually find that right around here with the information. Okay, let's see here. And it is still the flat ground steel blade. They absolutely are going to have a different edge length on these. So you're going to be looking at 3 140 thousandths. And really what that's designating is the cutting edge of the knife geometry. Okay. Now when this little guy's closed, you're going to have 4 370 thousandths or 111 millimeters of length there. Comes in at about 4.3 ounces, a little heavier than that project that we try to get to, that target of 1 inch per 1 ounce. The blade thickness of this guy is going to be 3.5 millimeters, or you can actually look at that in inches as always, and that's going to be about 138 thousandths. As we talked about, this particular model does not have the over travel stop. It does not have all that new goodies that the new one has. They do all come with a wire clip. I have changed mine out. I will link the eBay seller where I got this clip from. It's a fantastic deep carry pocket clip. I absolutely love it. It was super easy to install. It's super secure, and it isn't going to break on you like it does on some of the other models. Okay, and so again, that little guy is going to be right here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some other portions of this. Now, this knife was done in Taiwan, okay? The Taichung factory, and that is one of Spyderco's factories that really has a lot of love. A lot of people think that the products coming from that specific production plant are very well done, very well put together. Usually they're going to have good quality control, things of that nature. Now, with all of the specifications of the knife out of the way, all of the details about the productions, let's talk a little bit about how this guy came about. Well, first and foremost, Spyderco, right? Let's start with the big boys in the picture. First of all, who is Spyderco? Well, if you're new to the EDC community, or if you've been hanging out with Elon Musk and you've been up in rockets trying to get to Mars, you would know that Spyderco is one of the bigger knife companies that are here in the US. They were founded in 1976 by Sal and Gail Glesser out of Golden, Colorado, USA Earth. They are known for their really neat designs, a lot of innovation there. Iconic round holes that everyone knows about, that even fat, ugly fingers and thumbs like mine can get into really nice and easily. They are also known for being able to one hand open them with gloves on, which is another reason why a lot of police and first responders use Spydercos. They are also introducing and have introduced many, many firsts in the industry. They were the first to introduce the pocket clip, from what I can find in my research. They were the first to talk about and introduce serrated edges on knives, and especially pocket knives, I should say. They were also the first to really do the full flat grind blade that you're seeing here on this particular model, and a lot of their iconic models. Now, not to mention, they also gave us something through the community, the Spidey Flick. What the Spidey Flick does is you take your middle finger of your dominant hand, you put it in whatever you can kind of get a purchase in that little hole, and you flick it out. And that is a Spidey Flick, ladies and gentlemen. So they even have innovations happening with us in the community, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. Now today, Spyderco is a globally recognized brand. People from all over the world know them. They collaborate with all sorts of different knife makers, up-and-coming knife makers, renowned knife makers, designers from all around the world. I'm telling you, if there is a popular person or someone up-and-coming in this industry, they've either worked with them or they are going to very soon. Now, they also produce a wide range of really high quality, generally, folding knives. They do have some knives that are sort of budget, but for the most part, they're kind of in that mid-range. And they do fixed blade, and obviously they do flipping variations. Now, this particular Slysz Bowie, like I said, is the second Slysz Bowie. And we'll talk a little bit about how Slysz came about in this picture, right? Marcin Slysz is a Polish custom knife maker. I may be butchering his name. If I am very sorry. He's got a really great reputation. He has a reputation for not only making impeccable knives, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail, the innovativeness. He really does all of it, right? And this in particular knife was his second collaborative design with Spyderco. And they named it after him, the Slysz Bowie. Where Bowie comes from is the hybrid Bowie style full flat grind blade that you're going to see on this knife, and basically in any iteration that you have of the production ones. Now, talking from the first one, obviously that one was discontinued. I believe that was 2017. And again, what happened was a company named Knife Joy really seen that a lot of people wanted it to come back. So they worked away with Spyderco. They said, hey, let's switch the blade steel, let's blue anodize the handles. Let's get a little sprint run going of this. We'll pay for all of it up front. And they did. Now, who is Knife Joy, right? Knife Joy, obviously, is an online retailer, knifejoy.com, www.knifejoy.com. They were started in 2013 by Jason Kunkler. They're an online retailer, and they specialize in budget and premium knives, other gear, lots of accessories for not only knife enthusiasts, but people who just love EDC in general. Their website has a very wide selection of knives from Spyderco and other various renowned brands. They're a very popular destination for collectors, outdoor enthusiasts, and like you and I, knife enthusiasts alike. They've got a really good reputation, great customer service, competitive pricing, and they have a really cool selection of gear. So you might think, well, Carrier Burry, are you guys getting paid by Knife Joy, by Spyderco, by Marcin Slysz? No, we're not. We bought this knife. I bought this knife when it was released on the second production release of the knife. I was really excited to get it. And here it is in all its glory. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the design of this one. So, like we said, the knife was designed by the renowned Polish custom knife maker Marcin Slysz. Again, if I'm butchering his name, folks, forgive me. But where this knife really gained some notoriety and popularity is it also made popular the Taichung factory for Spyderco. And a lot of folks wanted their knives to be coming from there because of the attention to detail and a lot of the things that we got used to from that production plant. Then, after the knife was discontinued, Knife Joy took two different opportunities to purchase the two different limited edition runs of this knife, upgrading things like the steel, like we talked about, to re-releasing the knife again and upgrading again the lock bar insert, which if you don't know what a lock bar insert is, it helps with the wear on the titanium by added hardened steel, giving added strength and longevity to the back bar there. And also they included an over travel stop. I actually call these guys a lock bar stabilizer. And all of these are going to be right in this area of the knife, okay? You can actually see them on a lot of modern knives. I'm kind of glad they did it. It allows you to kind of give harder use to the knife. It also makes it so they're not going to go through as much wear and tear when you're opening it, closing it, things like that. So it's a pretty cool thing to have, and I'm glad that they added in that third production, which we don't have here to show you. Now back to pricing, guys. As we stated, the Slysz Bowie has been marketed between $300 and $450 USD during its 3 runs. However, as we're about to pull up on some eBay sites from the last couple of months here, once Professor queues it up, there they are. As you can see, in February, March, and I haven't found any yet in April, but I'm sure that there's some that are going to go soon here, you are going to see prices going as high as $800. The $600 and $700 range in the mids of both of those are the really big winners, and they're selling out not just on eBay, they're on other sites as well. Guys, this is going to be what we're actually working on our third segment for today. So if you've stayed with me this whole time and hung in there with us, or if you just got here from the time that Professor put in the comments, or excuse me, the time Professor put in the description somewhere in the video here, but as we stated in the beginning of the video, we're not needing to do the Spyderco. Guys, the Spyderco is not going to be buried, okay? This knife gets carried every time. I don't care who you are. I would be hard-pressed to see why you wouldn't want to own this knife, whether it be the looks or the really neat ergonomics. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's a fantastic knife. However, we are going to talk a little bit about something else. We're going to talk a little bit about knife pirates. So instead of this knife being carried or buried, we are going to talk about if we would consider being a knife pirate as a good or a bad thing. Okay, before we get into that, we finish up our third segment as always by giving you some size comparisons. I've chosen some Spydercos here. Here is the PM3 or Paramilitary 3. I also have a PM2 here. I have several of these, to be honest with you. I don't know why I picked the Tonto, especially one that I've used so much, but you know I did, so forgive me. That's a profit thing. You'll get to know that as we continue making videos for you. As you can kind of see here in the video, the PM Military 2 on top here, it really is very close to the size of the Slysz Bowie. It's going to be a little bit bigger. Not much, but it's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust. But the Slysz Bowie, like I said, with the added over travel insert and lock bar insert, it's actually something that is going to really put these guys to the test with the compression lock style of the PM2s and the compression lock style of the PM3s. Now, the PM3 here, it's a lot smaller than the Slysz Bowie. However, when you get them in your hand, I get the PM3 in my hand and it feels great. It feels a little small for me. I know there's a lot of folks out there that absolutely love it, and I carry the heck out of these guys. But when I get the Slysz Bowie in my hand, it is a whole different beast. I feel like every one of my fingers, I don't have to use any choils up top or anything like that. Everything feels fantastic. I absolutely adore this knife, even though it doesn't have Spyderco's normal choil on the tang. It is still something that I absolutely love. I picked out a couple more knives for a size comparison just to kind of give you an idea of the chunkiness that it doesn't have. Here's another very common cold steel 8015 made by the Demko brothers. This is considered a pretty large knife, if you will. And gosh, all the knives are dirty here today, Prophet, my goodness. They need to be oiled up and cleaned. But as you can see, as I'm getting these two next to each other here, the difference really not as so much in the length as you can see, which it is there. I mean, obviously the 8015 is much larger than the Slysz Bowie, but look at the thickness. I mean, this is something that you just can't make up. It is so much more compact. It really gets lost in your pocket. One of the things I really enjoy about this knife is the spine, how they've got the rounded blade spine here. It is super nice, especially when you're jumping up and you're making fine cutting movements. This little guy actually feels fantastic as you're cutting through stuff, which is again why this knife is not going to be buried on our channel. I have a ferrum forge knife here, and I wanted to kind of put these together to get into our next segment a little bit over the pricing, because this ferrum forge knife is something that you can find online, and I will link it in the description. It's very similar to the size of the Slysz Bowie. They both have the style of handle or scales that kind of come down. However, you're getting a much more ergonomic handle with a ferrum forge knife like this. Now, another thing is you're getting jimping on both. Although the blade on the ferrum forge isn't rounded, you can actually see that it does have chamfering on both sides of the top. It's really well done. You've got the carbon fiber inlay here. Everything works really well. You have a style of hole, so you can Spidey flick this guy really, really easily. Do that again for you so I know it wasn't a fluke. Very, very cool. So why am I showing you the ferrum forge knife here? Because this knife you can pick up for right around $350 to $400 all day long. That's a pretty big difference when you're dealing with $600, $700, $800 that these guys are getting on the secondary market. However, everyone wants one of these knives, right? Everybody thinks that this is going to be something that's going to go in their safe and it's going to make them money in the long run. One day they're going to be worth, $2,000, $3,000, who knows? But it's going to be an investment, and it's something that, hey, I'm a collector. I want it. That's what I want. It's a Spyderco. It's a Spyderco that's been discontinued. It's a Spyderco that they might not make another one like it again, even if Knife Joy decides to pony up a whole bunch of money. Who knows? So what we're going to do is we're going to stop talking, and we're going to just begin, right? We're going to begin our needs and nails section, or our carry and bury section. About how this works, right? So cue it up, Professor. Let's start as always with the needs, or the positives. In this case, the positives of knife pirateering. Okay, so we're gonna get our little guys up here, the stars of the show here, right? We are gonna make sure that they are centered up. Let's get them on all sides of that knife there. Let's see here. Let's put this little guy right here. There we go. Get us in focus. And guys, one more thing. I get that my hands are not the hands of a hand model. I get it. You can get in the comments and give me heck all you want. It's not going to bug me. If you do know somebody or a way that I can make my hands look nicer, I'd love to hear about it. Talk to me. I'm big into learning stuff. There's nothing that I'm not going to learn, right? Okay, let's talk about the needs. There it is, our first need. Folks, the buzz. The buzz. Do you know what that means? Bringing more and more people into the EDC community. How? How does that work, Prophet? Well, our research shows that by doing this type of purchasing, it brings more attention and excitement to the item. Therefore, the maker, the company, the community, and having constant buzzes on things, well, they get talked about. They get talked about at the water cooler. They get talked about on the deck of the darn ship. Arr! They get talked about everywhere, which brings, or at least introduces, right? I shouldn't say brings, introduces more folks into the EDC community. That's it. Number 2, look at that. Our second need already. Man, we're moving. Taking risks for the rewards. What does that mean, Prophet? Well, one thing that we've dug into is that it's not always the new hot thing becoming a success, right? I mean, it doesn't always happen. So by stepping into the realm of becoming the knife guy, or the person that gets these guys and becomes the ticket master of the knife world, by the scalper of the knife world, or the pirate of the knife world, you're actually going to be taking all of the risk. So what does that mean? It means as an individual, right? The individual, you are going to have a chance at becoming successful, at least financially, right? So by stepping into this realm, you're going to need to know how to do business at some level. You're going to need to do your research. You're going to need to have some income saved up. You're going to need to have really fast internet access and ways to get on that darn internet as fast as you can and have fast fingers and buy as many of these darn things as you can, right? You're going to have a little bit of foresight onto what is going to be something people want, that kind of thing, right? You're going to be able to have real life business skills, or at least you can start honing real life business skills, assessing the market and the demand, having that savings to be able to act on those decisions. All of that will really help you hone your business skills. So yeah, there can be a reward, and there's no I in team, but there is an I in pirate. Yeah, there is. Okay. That's it. Number 3. Oof, 3 pockets, 3 positives, guys. All right. Demand opportunities. Folks, this one can be a bit controversial, okay? And I get that. Just hear me out. Whenever something limited edition, anything, shoes, doesn't matter. When they become available, if they sell out crazy fast, it's gonna come down to a price, right? So what I mean by that is, although it's gonna come in at a price higher than the MSRP, whereas in the past most collectibles hit the safe, right? So a lot of knives back in the day, somebody were to pick up I can't even think right now, but there's so many fantastic knife makers. You get a Sal Glaser knife or something, you're going to pop it in the safe. You're going to look at Jim Skelton's website to see a lot of those big ones that I haven't had the money to get over the years. A lot of those go right in the safe, right? But what happens here is, because of the demand, it's going to have opportunities. So what will happen is you're going to see somebody buy a bunch of these, and if you had to work that day, you had slow internet, you missed out on getting that darn Spyderco Slysz Bowie. What happens? You're out of town. Who knows what's going on? You're sleeping. I don't know, right? But something happened. You couldn't get it, but now you can. But you are going to have to pony up that cash to these guys. That is something that we will know. All right. Moving on to number 4, okay? Innovation. What in the world are you using that word, Prophet? What the heck? This one's crazy, guys, but it's true. Companies and makers that are in this niche, okay, with low availability or limited release runs, often do different things with their items, right? So in case of the Bowie here, you find that each new release there's a change, addressing differences or updates with features. It doesn't really stop there. For instance, take the makers of the Deadlock. They're a father and son team. Their items, they fetch higher prices all the time. The demand for their work brings more genius out of them, more excitement out of them. And honestly, it shows us really where things can go. All these new innovations, these crazy cool new things, the Lee Williams kickstop. We can talk about a lot of stuff. All that stuff has had a buzz. It's gotten, okay, well, this did really well when I did it, so I'm not going to be scared to try this right now because there's a market for it. There's a market for it, and that's what's bringing us a lot of collaborations, a lot of really cool innovations, and a lot of really neat things in the EDC lineups. And that, unfortunately, take it or leave it, can be a positive. Whew! Woof, folks. All right. We've gotten through our 4. Is there going to be a 5th positive? Or are we going to say, yay, knife pirates here? I don't know. Let's get into the nails. And you know that song. You know that sound. Nail number 1. Ethical and moral dilemma concerns. Guys, this is a nail, right? This is not a good one, okay? So we're going to talk about this one here. Supporting a market where collectibles are sold significantly inflated at significantly inflated prices. This raises ethical concerns. It can contribute to a culture of scalping and price manipulation. This makes it harder for me and you or other genuine enthusiasts and collectors to obtain the items because they're not selling at a fair price. It also can create an environment for opportunistic individuals, right? Opportunistic individuals to exploit the passion of collectors for their financial gain. The people and circumstances that this can bring out in breeds, they're harmful, not only to the community, but to the actual industry itself, making it a breeding ground for very toxic individuals and business practices. Wherever there's money to be made, guys, there are people looking to exploit it. Trust me on this. I used to be one of them. Whether it's cutting corners in production or in quality control on the business side, to companies and people striving to make counterfeit or fake items that look like the real thing, all the way down to price gouging on the sales side. This is something that you seriously need to consider, okay, before becoming someone who wants to turn into this. It's sometimes not all about the money, right? But hey, let's talk a little bit more about that stuff. Well, what happens when you buy something, Prophet? What happens then if you don't feel good about it? I'm glad you asked. That's where the second nail comes from. And that's where she is. Number 2 nail, or buyer's remorse. Paying a premium for a collectible can sometimes lead to buyer's remorse, especially if that item does not meet your expectations, or if you've realized that you've overpaid for it. This can absolutely diminish your enjoyment. It can diminish your satisfaction that you can derive from owning the knife or the collectible or the EDC item or whatever you put here. It can be emotional. And guys, take it from me, it can absolutely bring in real life depression. It can make you double think every other purchase in the future, collectible or not. It can change the way that you do business. I don't have much more to say about that one. That one's a little near and dear to me. Oh, that noise got me back into what we're doing. We're filming a video. Number 3, speculative bubble / diminishing returns. Folks, by purchasing collectibles at inflated prices well over the diminishing return line or the diminishing return price line or whatever, this can and almost always can contribute to the creation of a speculative bubble. When these prices are driven mainly by speculation and hype rather than intrinsic value, there is a risk of a market crash or a significant decline in pricing going to happen. What do we call that? A bubble. It's a bubble and it can burst. And if that bubble bursts, the value of the collectible can plummet, leading to significant financial losses and hardships. This doesn't only hurt you guys, it hurts the sellers, the buyers, everyone. It brings us into just a place where we don't want to be. Which all of those kind of lead up to number 4 here. Financial / personal hardship from overpaying. How is that different than some of this other stuff? I promise you guys it is, okay? So when you pay significantly above MSRP, that means you're overpaying for the collectible, okay? Not just buyer's remorse can happen. That's a different thing altogether. Financial loss is a reality that can hurt, especially if the item's value does not appreciate as you expect it to do. And a lot of people expect it to do that. Now, even if it doesn't, even if you don't expect that, what else can happen? You might really want something, you don't care what you pay for it, that's fine. But it still can hurt. It still can hurt not just you or the market or whatever. Overpaying can also make it difficult for not only to recoup your investment, as we're talking about here, but what if you decide to sell the item in the future? You're going to take a loss. What if by buying that item at that larger price point, you're adjusting your budgets? You're choosing, do I have ramen this week or do I have crackers, right? I don't know. I can tell you this though, I've been on that other line. It's not fun. And people that are married or have a partner, it can put your relationship in serious trouble. You go out and spend $800 on a pocket knife, I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, or anything. What matters is what you just did was show your partner that you really don't care about your needs together. You care about, I want that knife. I'm going to go get it. I don't care what it costs. All right. And that's something you're going to have to explain because I'm not explaining that. So that's 4, right, Professor? Yeah. So that's 4. We've had 4 and 4 somehow talking about knife pirates. So I don't know. Are we going to bury these guys? Or are we going to celebrate these guys? So are we going to get the confetti out? Do we have the confetti? Do we have it? Nope, that's a nail. I knew it. That's a nail. Folks, that's a nail. All right, let's get this ready here. Okay. So, number 5, strained relationships. Scalping can create resentment. It can create frustration within friendships, the EDC community, businesses, leading to a breakdown in trust or camaraderie. Overall, damage and trust issues that take people away from the hobby, not to mention the evolution of the EDC movement. Let me tell you a little story real quick, okay? So throughout history, you got people like Martin Slysz, Chris Reeves, you've got the makers, you've got the community, you've got the companies. I bought a knife, tried to buy a knife from a gentleman named Brian Winters at Winter Blade. And Professor can, once we do a Q&A down the road, we can talk more about this. I'll keep it short. I sat on this screen that said I was waiting in queue to buy one of his first factors. I sat on that screen for probably 4 hours. There was a bug with it, an issue with it. I was so angry, I went on, I believe it was Nick Shabazz's channel, because I sent an email over to the Winter Blade talking about what happened and asking if there's anything they can do for me, and nobody got back to me. And so I took that as a personal slight, and immediately Mr. Winters was a bad guy. Let's fast forward a little bit. I made a comment about him personally because of what happened to me on his website. Because I didn't get what I wanted. And then obviously on the aftermarket at that time, those factors were fetching stupid amounts of money. I can honestly tell you that Brian Winters is an amazing human being. I reached out to him when we started this channel because I wanted to buy some more knives, and I had finally gotten a factor and the magnets were broken on the inside. And I'm like, gosh, I talked about this guy badly, now I got to send him an email. I sent him an email thinking maybe they won't ever get back to me. Well, by then, years later, of course, Winter Blade Co. that was his first production run. Brian's been through it by now, he's still a hard worker, he's still doing his thing in the garage. But you guys, he reached out to me, he texted me. He didn't know that I had any problems in the past. I don't think I brought it up. He treated me like a friend and told me where to go get my magnets, told me exactly where to get stuff, how to make the knife better, emailed me videos on how to, oh, you can't find it on YouTube, bud, let me help you. I cannot tell you, after my first few chats with him, I immediately purchased another knife from him when he had his next drop, and I'm waiting for that one to come, and I'm excited to review it. Whether or not that his knives, we end up burying them or carrying them here one day, I will say that the gentleman who owns Winter Blade Company, I consider him a friend. He's a Midwestern, beautiful human being. And Brian, if you're watching this, thank you for being you. Thank you for your innovation. Thank you for the heat you've taken from people like me while you've tried to grow this business from a fun idea of you making your own knives. And I think some of us lose track of that. And that's really, guys, what the EDC community should be all about. And unfortunately, this kind of stuff is starting to take that. It's starting to take people away from the community. I don't want to see that. We want to see our EDC family grow, right? All right, let's wrap this one up. So folks, you can find us on most social media apps by searching for @CarryOrBurry. That's @CarryOrBury. I'm sure Professor will put that somewhere here. I'd like to thank Brian Winters for letting me air some personal laundry out without his knowledge, and apologize to him for that. But thank you, Brian, for being you and for being an amazing person. We'd also like to thank Martin Slysz. If I butchered your name again, I apologize, sir. We'd also like to thank anyone that's helping this channel grow. We have, I don't have the hands as a YouTuber, folks. I get it, right? Look at these. I'll work on that, but I have the love for the EDC stuff. I have the love for the EDC community, and we want nothing more than to grow this channel. In fact, we want so much to grow this channel. Oh, I forgot. We're doing a burial here. We're gonna have to get the drone out and get some pictures of these guys going in the ground here soon. My goodness. But on top of that, folks, we are doing our first giveaway coming up. We're very close to 100 subscribers. I know to a lot of you, 100 seems like a very small number, especially because I know there's a lot of you out there that have really liked what we're doing and are helping us get there. And for all of you, I thank you. Mr. Hodge Jr., you are amazing. A lot of you other wonderful human beings out there helping. I can't thank you enough. Now, what I will say is we're going to be giving away more than just this, but this is something that Professor picked out personally. So Professor wanted us to give out a Spyderco, so I thought, why not do this one on the Spyderco video, give you a preview of it. I'm not going to flip it open much. I'm going to do one just to show you the blade. It's brand new, and Professor made me promise not to mess with it. It still has the oil and everything on it. But this is the Paramilitary 3, just like what we did a size comparison with today. And this is one of the 3 items that we are going to be giving out. More details when we get in closer to the 100 subs. But it's purchased. It's something that we have here in the wings ready to go. And, you know, I'll get my horrible fingerprints off there from these lovely hands that so many of you don't like. Keep those blades sharp. If you have a hard time doing it, get a hold of Rob. And again, we'll have Rob's information in the video here. Get a hold of Rob at the Apostle P channel, the best and first online knife sharpening service that I know of, at least. Now, keep them sharp. Keep those flashlights charged. In fact, you have to keep them charged right now, right? Because we have an eclipse happening. Right? The North American eclipse is coming up. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. But it's coming. Keep those flashlights charged. And, as you can see, keep those band-aids close. Okay? So, we'll say it quickly. Until next time, EDC family, keep those blades sharp. Keep the flashlights charged. And keep those band-aids close. Remember, you are the best tool in your daily EDC loadout. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.